Good morning, everybody, and happy Thursday. Thanks for being here. As usual, we're going to get started about 2 minutes past the top of the hour. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay, and then we are going to get started here shortly. Yeah, good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. Also, don't forget today is Ticker Thursday. So, if you guys have stocks you would like us to have a look at, please let us know. Not yet, just when the time comes, so I don't forget looking at them. But in a bit, be happy to do that. Okay, cool. Let's get started. Again, good morning, everybody, and happy Thursday. This is our Set the Market Morning Show. I'm Serge Berger from The Steady Trader, and what we are going to do here for the next 10 to 15 minutes is go through some of the more important things that we are looking at, or at least that's important in our view. And also keep in mind that today is Ticker Thursday, as I just mentioned. So if you do have some stocks you would like us to take a look at, the lens of education, have those handy when the time comes. I will let you know when we can take a look at those. Let's start off with NVIDIA. Of course, that's the first thing we need to look at because that is important. I've got my notepad here, as I mentioned, that I always have. Then I do want to address short interest in the S&P 500 because there's a new narrative out there that we're at record bearishness, so that's not being actually reflected by positioning, FYI. Then I want to quickly look at Coinbase. We will look at Apple. And again, any questions you have ticker-wise, we will look at, we'll take 3 or so here in a bit. I'll let you know when. So the reaction here so far today, it's rather muted. We're not really seeing a whole lot of price action for the most part. If you look at the globe here, let me quickly show it to you this way. So we did have China continue to hold up yesterday. So the Hang Seng was roughly unchanged. We remain quite bullish. We think it's getting a bit overbought in the near term. If you are a Inner Circle member, check out the email alert we're sending out on that. But very, very constructive. Actually, just this week had a meeting with the guys running the Crane Shares China ETF, and got a lot of insight in terms of what they're hearing from their clientele. So a lot of people just now getting bullish on this. We don't think this is anywhere near over. In the near term, a bit stretched from a technical perspective, but that's about it. So that's what's going on there. Let's go over to the European indices. The DAX this morning down a little bit. Again, nothing earth-shattering. If you look at the Stocks 50, again, we do need to look at the world globally because guess what? We do live in a global world in terms of the markets. And then, of course, we look at the futures here this morning as far as equity futures go, stateside, and it's essentially flat. We're really not going anywhere as far as S&P futures go. NASDAQ futures, of course, are a little bit more bid. In fact, they're up now closer to 70 basis points. But again, it's nothing earth-shattering. NVIDIA is up 1.5% or so, nothing big. And that actually leaves us with where we finished yesterday. Remember, we talked about NVIDIA would have to have a really big move in order to make money if one were to buy a put or a call ahead of earnings, which is typically a losing strategy. And NVIDIA is now trading pre-market around 134. So really, it's not laughable. It's not going anywhere. That might change, right? But I do want to quickly point something out for you guys. Again, this is not something that you'll hear a lot about on CNBC. So I want to quickly share with you what we're seeing here on that front. So here's what I've been watching overnight. This here is the gray area is the overnight price action in NVIDIA. You have the initial reaction to earnings, which of course was volatile, what is to be expected. And then it looked like we had one decent seller or one at least bit of news that led to selling in the stock in the overnight session. And it happened around 4 a.m., so that's clearly a European order. So that's 4 a.m. Eastern time, that's 10 a.m. Central European time, maybe coming out of mainland Europe, so Central Europe or maybe London. It didn't last very long for the stock to rebound, and the algorithms, I think, started taking the stock up again. The question is, and this is something we have to ask ourselves, and everyone I would remind everyone to be aware of, institutional investors they listened to the earnings call yesterday, and they are now coming into today likely waiting for liquidity come into the stock and make up their mind whether they're going to sell some, maybe buy some more. I have a hard time believing that one, but it's possible, right? So we want to be open-minded. It's the year of the trader. So I think we're going to have to see how the stock reacts today during the cash session. Because, again, think about institutional investors. They're not going to make up their mind in seconds after the stock. The algos do. So institutionals are now going to speak, with their money, with their wallet as we get into the actual cash session here that opens in about 23 minutes or so from now. So that's how I look at it. I've had a couple of calls early this morning with a couple of desks, and they're not seeing anything earth-shattering, so we're all kind of waiting to see how the real institutionals are reacting. But we did have that, again, one sell order look like, or at least something that came out of the stock where it dropped 1% in a few seconds. So that looks like it might have been some sort of a sell order coming out of Europe. We'll see what the market brings here today. So we remain very, very much watching that. Now, here's something really important. If any of you have watched this morning's headlines, you may have come across a headline that was talking about how the AAII, this is the investment advisors essentially view on being bullish or bearish the market, how we have like the most bears ever. I just want to put this in a bit of perspective. Did anyone hear that statistic? Type in yes if you heard that statistic this morning. Now, that may be true. The trouble is, if you have to always second guess things a little bit. The trouble or the reality is that this is not being reflected in price, in short interest. Okay, so short interest is actually nowhere near like highs. It's actually extremely low. So this whole narrative of all these people being bearish, and again, that I'm sure that survey doesn't lie. Those are the responses. It doesn't marry up with what's actually happening in the market. So very few people are bearish. Short interest is very low. If you look at it here, I was in early 2025 and late February. And short interest is not bad at all, right? So, that's something that I just want to put out there because, again, I know a lot of people just go by the headline and say, oh, it's time to buy stocks because everyone's bearish. Well, again, maybe. In reality, there's not a lot of short interest. In fact, it's some of the lowest short interest that we've seen outside of October or I guess mid-2024. Going back many years. So that's to put things into a bit of perspective. Hopefully that's helpful. So that's number two. So we've covered NVIDIA, we've covered short interest and the thing in the S&P. I want to, and we covered the Hang Seng and FXI. Again, as I said before, we still think that story is going to continue, but it may be near term a bit overcooked. Now let's talk about two other things. For one, I want to talk about Apple a little bit, because Apple is in a situation where, and this is purely technical, where, first of all, the stock this morning pre-market is actually trading more or less at the overnight session lows. That doesn't mean much. Obviously, we have to still see how it reacts during the actual cash session. But that's in stark contrast to some of the other stocks, including NVIDIA, which is trading closer to the overnight session highs. Now, NVIDIA will experience some volatility today, so we have to see how that works, but just for FYI. What I'm seeing in Apple is potentially a lower high. And what we had from a purely technical perspective is we had a reversal day yesterday on Wednesday. And you can see how the stock may have made a lower high. We will find out. So I actually like the idea of potentially making a bet against these levels up here. We can make a bet like that with like a bear call option spread, for example, right? I would prefer that than doing a directional trade here, but that's an interesting trade. In fact, we're have an internal discussion on that trade, myself, and the analysts on putting something like this on. So, just as an FYI, we have a well-defined lower high potentially, unless it reverses quickly. So that's an interesting setup that we like. So that's 4. Okay, that's 4 things now. So that's giving you guys a lot of good stuff here, hopefully. And then I want to touch on one more big thing before we go to tickers, and that is Coinbase. Now, Coinbase, of course, if you've ever followed this and you know what this is, it's obviously just tracking the price of Bitcoin. There's really no difference. In fact, if I were to overlay the price of Bitcoin for you on this, you can see the purple line at the top is exactly the same thing as the price of Coinbase, right? So we need to make sure we know what Bitcoin is doing in order to get Coinbase right. But if you look at Coinbase, it is at an interesting level. Whether it breaks here or not, we shall see. I think if it breaks much below 195 on a weekly closing basis, that would be a problem. I think it has a chance here of reversing and bouncing, but we would probably need to see the whole broader risk asset market bounce as well. If it fails, it can fail fast and hard. But I think if it holds 195 on a weekly closing basis, it stands a chance of reversing quickly back into the, I'm going to say 240 to even 270 area. But again, it needs to hold. So just know that Coinbase is at a critical level. Bitcoin is too, by the way. But Coinbase, I think Coinbase is a visibly or visually more appealing chart to kind of see these risk levels on. So that gets us to ticker Thursday. So if you guys have maybe 2 or 3 tickers you want to look at, type them in. I'm happy to take them. If you don't have any, we don't have any, but I'm happy to take them. If you guys have any tickers you want to look at, happy to quickly discuss them through the lens of education here. Just type them in if you would like to look at some. Also, I'm going to take this opportunity here to tell you that we have a very, very, very big... I keep looking at the wrong camera. No wonder. I should probably switch this. There you go. Here's the camera I meant to look at. I should take this opportunity to tell you that on Monday, we've got a big new podcast that's dropping. And so just keep an eye out for that one. That's going to come up on Monday. And we will be discussing that podcast in great detail because it's got a lot of good stuff. All right. So first of all, let's start with Amazon. This is for Victor. I'm going to take 3 tickers just in the interest of time. Amazon has one of the lowest price earnings forward ratios currently. That stretches back a number of years. I think Amazon is at a point that is very simple from a technical perspective. It's got support. I think the problem for Amazon only comes from a near-term perspective if it breaks below 200 or so. It's a nice round number, and it matches up with this 150 period moving average. So that's one thing that I would watch for a stock like that. So if it breaks below there, that's a problem. Beyond that, it's just mean reverting. That's all it's doing. The other thing, other stock here is GILD. I personally don't look at GILD much. GILD, if I can type it in properly. The problem with Gilead Sciences is that it is it's a trend following stock until it's not. So I would trend follow this one. If I was in this, I'm not in this stock. Just keep in mind this is a biotech stock, right? So biotech stocks are going to be very, very prone to basically FDA approvals, disapprovals, news out of that stuff, and it can decapitate you out of a trade very, very quickly. So keep that in mind. That's what I always caution about biotech stocks, but they are great trend following stocks if you can catch the trends. In fact, on our market rover, I'm going to quickly share this with you so you can see this. On our market rover is actually confirming this. So we have the market rover had this in a new bullish trend since that's the green background color since October. The stock's now up about 30%. So I say stay the trend. If this was me in this trade, and then if it has sharp drops, we can always get out. But it's a trend following idea. We'll take one more. Let's go with maybe Qualcomm, Russell. We talked about this one the other day. The thing with Qualcomm is it's actually giving us a new bearish trend on the market rover. I think we need to see how NVIDIA acts today. We talked about this the other day. I have no doubt that Qualcomm can go into the low 130s, but I need to see how NVIDIA acts. It's the same trade from a correlation perspective, so I'd be careful. And then Carvana, which I've talked about now for a couple of weeks. I am very concerned about Carvana from a debt load perspective. I know this is not something that you can see on a chart. They have a crazy amount of debt. I think that's going to squeeze their margins. I think Carvana can go a lot lower, like into the low 100s. I don't know what your time frame is, Ariel, but what I can tell you, and I'm going to quickly show you this here if you give me just 1 second. The stock remains bullish trend, so that has not changed, right? So the trend is unchanged in the green background color. But from a momentum perspective, and this is what I'm looking for on a stock like Carvana, from a momentum perspective, the stock is now actually in a new bearish momentum setup. So we use our TST trender. I would absolutely urge everyone to get that indicator. If you don't have it, get in touch with support@thesteadytrader.com. But here, it's a momentum stock, right? You can see momentum buy signal, then the stock rallies 81%. Momentum sell signal, the stock drops 20%. Momentum buy signal, the stock rallies into earnings 26%. Now we have a momentum sell signal. I'm going to respect that signal for now, and I don't have a trade on right now, but I do think that ultimately the stock can go a lot lower if the debt load is unsustainable, which I think it is. So that's it, folks. Thanks for being here. Please subscribe to the channel. Very important so we can continue to do the show, number one, and number two, so that you are informed in real time when we go live. We are back here Monday morning. We don't do this show on Fridays because I too need a break every once in a while. And if you are in the in our Slack community, then I'll see you guys over there in about 10 minutes. And we're going to very closely watch NVIDIA today, as it's likely going to dictate what the risk on-off trade looks like. Have a great rest of your week and weekend. And again, please subscribe to the channel. Please give us a thumbs up, like. See you guys soon. Thanks for being here.